Welcome to Wales Today. Our top stories. Thousands of Welsh steelworkers take their message to the heart of Europe to urge support for their ailing industry. Tonight, we're live in Brussels.
Give us a fair chance for our future, that's all we're asking for. And I think, we'll make a bit of noise today and hopefully he'll put pressure on them to put sanctions in place.
Labour promise 100,000 apprenticeships if the party wins May's Assembly election. Are antidepressants prescribed too easily? A professor of psychiatry here says doctors are all but forcing pills on patients. One of Wales' worst maritime disasters, 20 years after the Sea Empress spilled oil across Pembrokeshire. Have we learnt the lessons?
Hello, good evening. A setback to Rhys Webb's hopes of being recalled for the rest of the Six Nations. And some of the biggest names in snooker are here, but will a Welshman take the Welsh Open title for the first time in 17 years?
Good evening. A senior EU commissioner has told this programme tariffs are already being placed on Chinese steel products coming into the UK. This comes as steel workers from Wales join thousands from across Europe to protest in Brussels today, demanding action from the European Union to support their industry. They say cheap Chinese steel is threatening their livelihoods. Last month, Tata Steel announced hundreds of job losses here. From Brussels, our business correspondent, Brian Meehan.
A message loud and clear. Some of these Tata workers in the company's distinctive blue and yellow work gear aren't only worried about the long term. Some are facing redundancy as 750 jobs go at Port Talbot.
We want to make a bit of noise and we want to put pressure on the European Parliament to put sanctions on the Chinese steel because it's not a level playing field as it is.
It's about fighting for our jobs at the end of the day, the survival of the UK steel industry first, but as you can see, it's all across Europe.
It's a desperate situation and we need urgent action on it.
So here we have 50 steelworkers from Tata in South Wales joining 5,000 workers from across Europe at the home of the European Commission here in Brussels. And they're not marching alone, they're marching with the bosses of Tata, including Carl Kohler, who is the head of Tata Steel in Europe. And that shows that management and workers are united in their message to stop the dumping from China.
They were joined by 5,000 others from across Europe. China denies it's dumping steel, selling below its value or what it costs to make. But critics argue that it's clearly happening. Tata's European boss says that we need to learn from mistakes of the past when high energy costs took years to deal with.
What we are here for is for free and fair trade. We want the Commission to apply the instruments that are there to keep actions against dumped steel from China, which destroys currently the market here in Europe. And that has to be done fast and it has to be effective.
The Welsh steelworkers stopped outside the European Commission headquarters and were in good spirits. But I met with one of Europe's most senior figures to see if their voices were being heard.
Actually, there are 37 trade defending measures in place at the moment, 16 of which directly towards China. So we are doing quite a lot, and every time when there are accusations, we start looking at what is the reality and if there is a need to do any anti-dumping or trade defense measures against the unfair trade.
The UK government's been criticised for not backing tougher measures to raise the cost of Chinese steel. In Brussels, the Business Minister, Anna Soubry, rejected the complaints.
It's really important that we don't get diverted into what might happen in the future in relation to China. It's going to be some time. If you look at tariffs, again, it could take years in any event to change that. And frankly, this industry hasn't got the time. It wants action today. We've already lost in just 6 months well over 5,500 jobs, and those are the actual jobs. Never mind the effect it then has on the supply chain.
The steelworkers certainly had their day of protest. Whether they get the response they want at the speed they want it is another matter.
Brian, doesn't all of this simply highlight how significant, how dominant China has become in our economy?
It really does, yeah. China is a major force. It's the second biggest economy in the world, and it has had a negative impact on Wales in some ways. We've seen a lot of manufacturing jobs ultimately go to China and other parts of Asia, and there's no doubt that Chinese steel is definitely having an impact on Welsh steelmakers. However, on the upside, we have seen China invest quite heavily in biomass, 2 plants in Wales, £1 billion. We've seen China invest £300 million in Cardiff Metropolitan University. So that money is coming in. One of the difficulties when you get into tariffs is that they can escalate. It can become a sort of tit-for-tat approach. And no matter the rights or the wrongs of the actual argument involved, countries just start slapping tariffs on each other. We've seen that with the United States and the European Union. It's not something specific to China. And that's something that people try to avoid. That's why they try to avoid such disputes. So it's not an entirely straightforward matter.
Brian Meakin in Brussels, thank you.